Hi, guys. It's the Blocks Podcast. My guest today is, you hate to use the word icon. You know what I mean? Legend is insulting. It's just old people shit. It's Johnny Knoxville from Jackass, everybody. We'd like to say also, but he's from Jackass.
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass. Whoa!
And he has a podcast called Pretty Sure I Can Fly. The premise is about people who kind of broke barriers who weren't sure if they could or not.
Yeah, they achieved something great against all odds. Everyone's telling them they're crazy, and most of the time they sacrificed physically a great amount.
Great. Which I'm sure you can relate to. Yes.
An unhealthy amount.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know if people remember or know. So the show started, Jackass started because it was the magazine, or was it a fanzine, Big Brother?
It was a skateboarding magazine owned by Larry Flint.
Great.
And the creator of Jackass, Jeff Tremaine, was the editor.
Oh, great.
And most of the cast either wrote for the magazine or were featured in the magazine. And there's like 2 or 3 people that, a couple came from Westchester, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
Bam and Ryan, and Dave England and Aaron came from Portland, but everyone else was in Big Brother.
The origin, there was like a video component to Big Brother?
Yeah, they would, every couple years, they would release these videos that had a lot of skating and naughty behavior in it. I wasn't a skater, but I had some. What's that?
Were you naughty?
Sometimes I acted ugly, as my mom would say.
Great.
So yeah, that was my end. I could, like, my first article for them was an article on self-defense equipment where I would test these different devices on myself and write an article about it. And Jeff said, "Well, you should also video it and put it in our
the video." Yeah.
And so I did.
Charge!
And but since there was a gun involved in one of the bits, I arrived that morning to pick up Dmitry Alyaskovich, who ended up being the DP on
Oh yeah,
Jackass.
I knew Dmitry. Yeah.
He just kind of handed me the camera through the door. I'm like, "Aren't you coming?" He's like, "No, I can't. Jeff won't let me." I was like, "Well, shit, I can't operate this." So I had to get my friends that were there to operate. Anyway, it ended up in the video, and things kind of took off from there.
Okay, so what did you think your life was going to be at that point? Like, you're how old? 25? Mid-20s?
27.
So, all right, so it's not like super early in the day. It's like you got to kind of figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Are you that kind of person? Are you the kind of I need to figure this thing out person? Are you driven in that way? Like, were you married, kids? Was there any impetus to succeed in the world?
The inciting incident was when my then girlfriend, she got pregnant, and we had a kid at 24 years old. I had a daughter on the way. Now, I'd been out in LA trying to make it as an actor, but really not taking some classes, but not really focused and trying to do something. But I have never known fear in my life. Like, I have a daughter on the way.
Yeah.
And I have to provide for this kid. I was terrified.
I'm sure.
But that led me to, like, God, I reached out to my friend, John Linson, and he got me a gig writing articles at this magazine. And my next door neighbor was Antoine Fuqua in the same duplex. He's hooked me up with this casting agent who hooked me up with a commercial agent. And that pushed everything forward for me. And one of my article ideas was the self-defense equipment, and no one in town wanted part of it because there was a gun involved.
So you're pitching to like GQ and Esquire,
yeah, exactly,
and Vices and doesn't exist.
No, so all those, everyone liked
Stuff.
it. But yeah, everyone. I don't remember pitching to Stuff, but
Details.
whoever, yeah, sure, details. But the only person who would help me buy some of the things, because I was broke, was Tremaine.
Yeah.
And he liked the idea, so I ended up doing it for him, which worked out for everybody.
And then, so the video...
That was my best guess at how to support my family, was to just throw everything against the wall, including my body.
Freelance writing and or whatever naughty stuff.
Whatever you need.
Doing ugly?
Huh?
Acting ugly?
I was acting ugly sometimes.
Acting ugly. Okay. So then it doesn't take off immediately? Like the video was sort of floating around, right?
Yes. It came out and, in an underground way, it got a little heat. But what I did is I took my part of the video and just started sending it to people, that I thought could help me. With
the same idea of like, I got a kid here.
I'm just here. This is what I do. I don't know what use it is. I don't know.
Were you a good writer? Do you consider yourself a good writer, or was passable?
It was pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yeah. I was no Cormac McCarthy, but I was decent. And someone got back to us, one of the producers of Guinness Book of World Records or something. It's like, oh, come in, we'll do a show. And I'm like, well, if I want to do a show, I'm going to have Tremaine involved. And they came back with a deal that heavily favored me and didn't really honor Tremaine. And so I said no.
Were you doing that to reward Tremaine for the belief in the premise? Or like, did you feel safer with him?
I felt like Tremaine and I were a really good team. We complemented each other.
Okay.
And I believed in us.
Great.
So I turned them down, and Jeff suggested we call Spike and tell him about our idea for a show. And it was it was a little bit of Jackass, but we didn't know if we should be behind a desk.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And Spike's like, you guys are already doing the show, the Big Brother videos.
Spike may be the greatest distiller of ideas of all time, of just like, here's what's good about it. Do that.
Yes. And we're like, oh, yeah, we knew that, of course.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be involved, which suddenly two guys who really didn't know anything, Spike Jonze is behind us.
Yeah, and he's directed a movie or two by now.
Yeah. So now people think we know something we didn't. We still don't. But we got his agency, we got his lawyer, and suddenly we've arrived. And luckily, the show took off.
You pitched to MTV.
We pitched to HBO.
Interesting. How was the pass?
It was brutal because we really
did. They say, here's what they said to me and Chappelle: why do we need you? We have Chris Rock.
In the room, they said that?
Yeah. And Dave's
how'd that work out for him?
Yeah. Dave's so petty that he went, don't forget about me on our way out. So, yeah, that's literally what happened.
We really didn't have everything worked out. We let Spike do the talking. And since we didn't have anything worked out, he got hung up a few times and on the pitch. And then we showed the tape, and it was just crickets. It was fucking crickets in the room. It was a lady
HBO,
we were pitching to, and she was just not into it. So it was pretty funny in hindsight. Yep. But then we went to Comedy Central and MTV, and they both wanted it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So then you do 6?
No, we did 24.
Wow. Okay. So they sort of thought like, this is cheap and it'll like up front, I'm saying like you did 24 in the first season.
Well, they called it 3 seasons, but they would buy in 8s, and that was a season. But around, I don't know, second season sometime, we got some copycat incidents,
right?
Which was unfortunate, and it was an election year, and
2000.
Yeah,
it must have been right.
2000. Yeah,
I mean, if it's a presidential, it's 2000 or 2000. I think it's 2000.
Lieberman came down on MTV, Viacom, me personally.
What do you, I want to ask about that. What do you think of that because I remember you guys ended up having to put a warning on it. It was a bit
Warning was there. Warning was there from the beginning.
Okay.
But what they did is they came down on us, and suddenly, going into our third season, we had an OSHA person, and we had all these, like they tried to say we couldn't jump off anything higher than 4 feet, and all these really silly rules. We couldn't do the show.
And was that from MTV? They like legally had to, or they
like MTV didn't want to do it, right? But they kind of were getting leaned on.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I couldn't see doing this show the way we wanted to do it. I gave an interview to my hometown newspaper saying I quit Jackass. And man, did that start.
How'd that
go? People were angry. Very upset.
Like Jeff and Spike? Or
no,
like
no,
fans
everyone,
or the guys?
Everyone understood.
Yeah.
From
this was
our
after
side.
you've done 24, 3 seasons, etc.
Yeah, and they weren't hiring our people. For the next round, they weren't giving us any indication. I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, I think we're done. I'm done.
But it was doing incredible ratings.
Yeah,
right?
it was doing the highest ratings they'd had up to that point.
Yeah.
But I know what we do is silly, but it meant a lot to me personally. So then I just quit.
I would also like to say I said this before we started, like when I saw it, I just thought this is a perfect distillation of what it is to be a young guy. I still haven't. No one's topped it in terms of in terms of like fucking around, a group of guys fucking around and lovably injuring each other. Or lovingly injuring yourselves for fun, to amuse your friends, abusing each other to entertain. It's funny when you get slapped. It's funny to slap.
Yeah.
High five.
That's what being a young guy is about. That's what kind of being a guy is about up to a certain age. But so I get how much it meant a lot to me, and I had nothing to do. I remember thinking I would walk to LA from New York just to volunteer and go like, what do you need? I don't even think we'd done Chappelle Street, but I was like, I can't believe how much I love this. It just reminded me of growing up. And it
reminded, I think that it did that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, just fucking around with your friends.
Yeah. And, okay, so what do you think of the copycat? Is it unavoidable? Do you think it's not your responsibility? Do you think it's like, what do you want us to do? Did you feel like the John Hinckley Jr. taxi driver catching the rye? How the fuck is that their problem?
I had the delusion back in 1981 that by shooting the president, I could impress Jodie Foster.
Like blaming art, or in this case, a TV show, on behavior.
Well, it's very unfortunate when anyone gets hurt trying to imitate something that you did.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like kids getting hurt.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, of course.
We always tried to stress, like, we say don't try this at home, but we mean it, right?
Yeah.
But it happened, and I felt bad, because I had a kid, right? But I felt like we did everything we could. What part bugged me is like when Lieberman made it part of his campaign to come down hard on Hollywood,
right?
Which is really no move at all. There's nothing at stake. You're achieving nothing.
Yeah.
It's a very easy thing to do. It's very high profile, but you're not really.
Nothing changes
for the people.
Yeah. It's not,
so,
did he save lives? Like,
no.
He so a kid didn't tear his ACL or get second-degree burns in the, like, okay.
It's just a bullshit platform move.
So you felt bad, but not especially responsible. I feel like that's how I would have felt. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah.
Like bad, but like, come on. Like, what do you want us to do?
Yeah. And I beat myself up a lot, but in that instance, I felt like we did everything we could. I felt bad, but
Okay, so what do you make of, how'd you take the fame?
That took some getting used to, took some spinning my wheels, which I've been known to do.
Spinning your wheels, what? Overthinking? Obsessing?
Anesthetizing with like going out all the time or meeting girls all the time or just trying to figure out who I was. Took me quite a while. I mean, that was late. It was
Late
like 29
20s.
when it hit, and then I probably didn't get my feet on the ground till I was around 35. So,
And what's that? What is it just the montage? I made it montage of like girls, drugs, alcohol, treating friends poorly? Is it?
I don't necessarily. I'm not treating friends poorly. Treating myself poorly.
In what way?
Well, just
Being on Jackass? Okay.
no thought before action.
Uh-huh.
No, just overdoing it in a lot of areas.
Did you feel like you were supposed to?
Part of me thought. You got to be careful how you choose your heroes,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So part
So
of
you
me
were
thought
Hunter
that
Thompson?
what's that?
You were Hunter S. Thompson? Who were you?
Yeah, I loved Hunter, right? That's one of the first people I sent the tape to.
That's funny.
And he called me back at home. I can't tell you how fast my heart was
I can only
beating,
imagine.
that he would take the time to call me and tell me what he thought. And
You had no relationship with him?
none.
And what did he say?
God, I can't even remember precisely what he said then, right? But it was very glowing
Great.
in his Hunter type of way. I did get to hang out with him a few years later in New Orleans, and that was quite a night.
Is he a cautionary tale or a best case scenario? What did you think then? What's your arc been in terms of what you make of that style and that lifestyle?
Well,
Because that guy can write his ass
he's
off.
just a brilliant writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the persona he backed himself up into, it cost you,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Cost him. I remember walking in the bar that night in New Orleans, and his head was just down on the bar, and he was just beside himself. And he was in the pain, and he was saying all of his friends are past and gone, and what's the point? And I don't want to feel like I'm name dropping, but I was with Sean Penn that night, and Sean got him, was like, come on, don't stop talking like that.
Yeah.
Like, snap out of it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. And we picked up his doctor bag. Well, Sean picked it up. His famous doctor bag.
Yeah.
I was hoping to pick it up. But we went back to his room, right? And he came out of his shell because everyone started reading from The Curse of Lono. And it was like a lot of, his editor was there, a lot of some other actors and actresses. And it was all kind of a celebration of his words and
Kind
Hunter.
of impromptu?
Yeah, we were sitting in a circle. We were sitting in a circle reading from The Curse of Lono. And I kept passing on it because I was blitzed, right? I was shithoused. And, I was pilled up. I was drunk. And he reached in his bag and threw me a big thing of pills. And I just downed a few without looking. And I said, Vicodin? And he's like, yeah. It was like little respect, which is a terrible fucking thing to be able to do,
That's
right?
hilarious.
Terrible.
Yeah, you guessed it. And he was like, yeah.
Wow,
I
this
see-
guy's
I see
okay.
something.
Yeah.
It's my kind of guy. Let me
But
lay
eventually he took umbrage and he's like, you got to read. And everything that I was fearing happened. Like I stumbled on some Hawaiian words and he's like, well, I don't know what's going on. He's usually very bright. And I was like, and because I'm gripped with anxiety anyway, right? That's one of my blocks.
Yeah. We'll
And
get
so
there.
then all the things I had feared came true. And I don't know.
What do you think back then, though? Like, do you think this is so fucking cool, I can't stand it, and I love having this lifestyle?
What?
Around that period where you're like, this is what we play for. We're doing.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking very deeply about what I was doing to myself and the ramifications on my family.
When you look back, what do you think you were doing? You were just adjusting to fame?
That's really putting a happy face on it.
I
felt like I had lost a little control, and it took a few years before I wanted to gain control, right? Before I wanted to pull myself together, before I saw like, shit, you gotta like reel it in.
Like, so it sounds like a version of self-destruction.
And it never got to like extreme.
Yeah.
What I consider extreme, but it's good that I reeled it in, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So when you say pick your heroes wisely, did you sort of have a shift consciously of like, all right, that's a bad ending? Or
well, my heroes still stayed my heroes, right? But I just could look at them more from a 360 point of view as opposed to, you know, just glorifying them. Because I remember I was in New Orleans and Hunter called me again, and he was wanting to go home and
to Wyoming or
Colorado, Wood Creek. Do you know anyone that's flying back? And I said, let me check. And I found, to see who's flying that direction. And oddly enough, it was Jessica Simpson flying that direction.
Great.
And I called them back. I'm Hunter, like there's a private plane going back. But by that time, he had found a plane to get back. He was really wanting to get back. And I think less than, 4 to 6 weeks later, he'd taken his life. And I think that's why he was wanting to get back. And it's pretty jarring, see him like that in the end.
This is shortly after your night with him?
Yeah.
And was that a bit of a wake-up call, or was it just more gradual than that?
More gradual.
Hi, guys. Let's talk about procrastination. You know that thing we all do when we have a million things that we're supposed to be doing, but we end up going on Reddit and lurking endlessly, and you've also added a plug-in to your browser that you have an endless scroll on Reddit. A little too personal? Well, that's me, guys. I found a secret weapon to help us kick procrastination to the curb. Thesis. Thesis is a brand-boosting supplement made with natural ingredients proven in clinical studies to support faster reaction times, speed up mental activation, and help improve concentration. For a limited time, our listeners can save $60 on their first subscription order with code NEAL at TakeThesis.com. That's TakeThesis.com. $60 off your first order at TakeThesis.com with promo code NEAL. I don't have a ton to do, but even that, I can procrastinate. I can avoid even the smallest inconvenience or chore. It's breathtaking what I can do. And then I went on Thesis. I sort of explained some of my issues, that I wanted a little more focus. I don't know anyone who doesn't want more focus. All the goals we all have, I also have. I took the test. They sent me back my little package, and I've added that to my daily regimen of after lunch. Then I take the stuff. So far, so good. I believe I'm more focused. I find myself thinking like, do I have stuff I need to do? And I'm like, no, I don't. I actually did it all. And the other thing that it doesn't do, a lot of times supplements like this make me nauseous. No nausea for me. Take the free 3-minute quiz to find out what your brain needs. Head to TakeThesis, TakeThesis.com, and use code NEAL to save $60 off your first subscription order when you sign up for Thesis. That's $60 off your first order at TakeThesis, TakeThesis.com. Promo code NEAL. Maximize your mind with Thesis today. Hey, you know how I'm always talking about therapy on here? There's over 50 different types of therapy. I've always complained it's very hard to figure out which one to try. Anyway, heard about this website called Therapy Path. That's therapy-path.com, where you take a test. It's $3. You're a member for life. Take a test, fill out basically what your issues are, and then they will calculate them all and give you 3 options of what are statistically the most proven methods to help you with your particular problems. It's a great idea. It's well laid out, super easy to follow. Takes like 6-7 minutes to take the test, and you'll get 3 different methods that could help you with a link to the websites where you can try to find a practitioner. Therapy-path.com. Go do it now, you guys. So then you start making the movies. I'm assuming that's a better experience, or is it more because it's still MTV Productions, or you guys, it was Paramount and you didn't have to worry about OSHA and all that stuff?
Yeah, once we could make Jackass for the movies, all the OSHA bullshit went away.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to worry about nudity. We didn't have to worry about swear words.
Yeah.
Or we would police ourselves more than the studio would. Like, we tried to avoid bits that were easily imitatable. And,
Oh, interesting. I guess that makes sense of where you're using cannons and shit like that. Like,
Hello, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the Flight of Icarus.
or jet engines.
Yeah. It's like things. It's like people are going to have a hard time getting.
The big sort of grand opening, those huge, spectacular openings you did. How did you guys decide to do those?
I'm trying to think how that came about. I know the big ending came about because we do an open and a close. We showed Jackass the movie, the first one, to all the execs at Paramount. Sherry Lansing was running it then. Afterwards, like, some of the execs stood up and said, "Paramount's never going to release this. This is awful. The worst thing we've ever seen."
Great.
And Sherry Lansing, to her credit, loved it. She goes, I loved it, but can you do a close to go along with the opening to bookend it? And so that's when we decided to do a close. But
Was it we're graduating to movies, so we should make it more grand? Like, is that the writer in you? Or is that
I guess that where the opening came from, but I don't know whose idea that was.
Yeah, I'm just more concerned. I'm more curious about you, Jeff, and Spike going like, how do we turn this into a movie? Because they work really well. The segments work so well together, and I'm sure you guys, do you move them around? And
oh yeah, there's a lot. We just took the brakes off, right? We don't have to hold back.
Yeah,
we could hold back for the television show because there's only so much you can show. The movies, whatever our heart desired, as long as we didn't think that it was extremely irresponsible to the point where it's easily imitatable. But yeah, once we have all the bits, there's so much of reworking it in post with because you don't want to have a lot of disgusting things in a row.
Yeah.
You don't. And if you just got out of a really gnarly stunt, you might want a little palate cleanser, cutesy thing.
Sure.
You have to think about what the audience is watching because some of it can be a lot.
Yeah. And would you do that in screenings where you'd be like,
we did a lot of screenings for friends just to get their feedback. Those are very useful to us when we screen for friends and because we listen. Yeah, and it's in a comedy.
That's all you have.
You just got to listen.
Yeah,
if it's quiet or we know when they're supposed to sigh or like be shocked or whatever, like. But with comedy, it's pretty easy to like, okay, we got to tighten it up there or lose that completely.
Yeah. All right. You have anxiety. Let's get some bucks. You have anxiety. Do you feel like you pick the worst possible job for that? Or is it like, all right, fuck it. Let's monetize it.
The anxiety really doesn't come up in my job so much.
Interesting.
Because I'm the one pulling the strings, right? Jeff and I and Spike. Like I know not each of us, me, Spike, Jeff, know 98% of the things that are going on the set, and 2% we will hold from each other.
Right. Okay.
And I don't worry about someone pranking me because like that's going to cost them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you're like Islam in that way.
I get that a lot.
I'm sure you get mistaken for Islam a lot. You don't like jokes about you.
Oh fuck.
Okay, so how is it in your life? How's the anxiety in your life?
I'm better with it now. It still happens.
We're talking anxiety attacks, general anxiety.
I don't have attacks, but you can spend too much time thinking about something and I guess ruminating, and it sometimes it comes across as like socially being out somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm scared of crowds.
Always?
I'm getting better, but I usually try to avoid crowds.
And that's not a fame deal. That's just you don't like crowds.
That was like I got out
when you were 18.
When I was 4 years old. My dad took me to a Tennessee game. 100,000 drunk, hyped up Vol fans, and I was terrified. And since then, I just don't like it.
Do you worry about your loved ones a lot? Do you worry about?
I worry about my kids.
Yeah.
I was as far as saying something or doing something a little off color, I was pretty open-minded. But if they were on the playground climbing or anything, like I was the worst helicopter parent right under them, because I just couldn't stand the thought of them.
You're aware of
hurt.
how ironic that is, right?
Yeah.
What if they had said, "I'm Johnny Knoxville's daughter, and this is Jungle Jim"?
Would
that have helped?
I let them know that. Well, I have 2 daughters and a son, and the daughters I could just tell they're not. They like the pranking side or giving me or my friends hell, but they just don't have that side at my.
Well, I think that's a pretty clear gender. I mean, it's not universal, but like. I'm dealing with a 4-year-old boy, and he literally is like,
they're out of their
"Hey,
mind.
can we fight?
Yeah.
After dinner, can we fight?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, we can fight."
They're so fun.
Yeah.
But my son, like, he's a little wild, but even he, like, I can tell that he's got a better head on his shoulders than what I did.
And plus, they don't.
We had different lives too.
And they don't have a kid that they can't afford. That's making them do all this horrible shit.
I had to make some quick moves, Neal.
What do you make of work-wise? I'm sure you grapple with this all the time, and the more of them you've made, the more it becomes like, I can't believe we're still doing this.
With the Jackass movies? Yeah. We didn't even think it could be a TV show. Yeah. And it almost wasn't. We almost didn't. We got shut down during the pilot.
But the tax, it's the physical tax you paid.
Oh, yeah. That's been real.
What are the exact things that have happened? Like that you are now every day, what's different?
Well, I've been pretty lucky for a purposeful, unlucky guy. My lower back's pretty blown out, but I exercise different parts of my body to keep that in check. And the concussions we're still dealing with, and
you keep an eye on it
as much as I can.
When you remember.
yeah, it's so I think I'm okay, but the last one really spun me out with the bull and Jackass Forever. That was a bad one. You know, it was my 16th, and I was almost 50.
Concussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over 6 months, I just basically started, like, my mind was playing tricks on me. And that was frightening because that had never happened before.
It's frightening, yes. I can only imagine. Did it make you angry? Or did it make you feel like regretful of like, why the fuck didn't you listen to your, like all the, how much money? None of that?
No, because you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube. I can't, worrying is not going to change that or getting angry about that. So that I was pretty good about. I just wanted to feel like myself again.
Yeah.
And not just having this loop of bad shit going on in my head constantly. And
probably couldn't have helped the anxiety.
No, man. I got down to like, I don't know, I lost 25, 30 pounds and just like times where I was just nonverbal. It was bad.
Nonverbal because you were so wrapped up in it?
I was trying to get these treatments to help, these transcranial magnetic stimulation. And I started out where I would talk, it was like over a series of 12 to 15 weeks and started out.
Did they do this side? Because for depression, they did this side on me.
I don't know. They just stuck something on. I don't know what area really. But I remember being pretty civil with the guy and chatting him up while we were. Yeah,
you're just watching TV.
But then by the end, I couldn't even speak to him, and I just couldn't because I was too far in my head. But because
it's a lot of your going like, what was my brain? Did I used to be like this? Was a lot of like questioning.
Yeah. Or
wait, is this functioning?
Or just like convincing myself something was happening when it was not.
Yeah.
You know, I remember talking to friends like, what you think's happening is not happening. And I'm like, I just didn't see how that could be.
In reality?
Yeah. I was just like, I don't see how that can be. I was just telling myself crazy shit. The movie's not going to come. It'll never come out. It'll never, just making up shit constantly, telling myself. But then finally I got on Zoloft and it slowly brought me back around. And I just have so much empathy for that guy, me then.
Yeah.
Or anyone going through that.
Because
you're getting bad information.
From your brain.
Yes. Your brain is playing tricks on you.
It's also hard to, if you can't rely on your brain, it's like, this is kind of all I have.
Yeah.
If it's like trusting your own instincts, it's like, even if it's wrong, at least it's consistent or something. But if it's straight up lying to you, then you're pretty lost.
Like over 6 months, the fog just rolled in and just hung there.
And was that a typical response to a concussion?
That's the first time I've had that.
What did doctors say it was like that? This is a fairly common thing.
Well, there's a traumatic brain injury, like there's bleeding on the brain. And so for that type of thing, it made sense to the doctors, but they're like, you can't have any more. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want any more.
You know something?
I
just had the same thought. I don't like them.
I don't have anything left to prove.
Yeah.
I think I've done it.
Yep.
And, but wow, that was rough.
I bet.
I'm glad to be on the other side of that.
Yes. You avoid confrontation and personal relationships. So how'd that go? Meaning, if you avoid confrontation, you kind of avoid resolution, no?
Yeah, and talking things through, right? Because I grew up in an atmosphere where it was very combative as a child. Mm-hmm. My father was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with the alcohol. He's either the best dad of all time, or he comes home and it's just constant fights with my mom and yelling. Sometimes we have to leave, and not knowing which dad, knowing which dad was coming home that night.
Yep.
I remember like around 4:30, she would get a call from work, and I'd be like, "How'd he sound?" She goes, "He hasn't been drinking." and it was just the happiness would wash over me. But if she's like, he's drinking, it's still frightening to think of.
Because the thing about, I grew up in alcoholism, and my dad was an alcoholic, and it truly is like there's nowhere to run.
Yeah.
Like and you don't know, it's like being bombed. You don't know what it's like being just like in Yemen or something. You're like, I don't know where to hide, and I don't even know how to diffuse it. Did you get better at diffusing them, or did that even?
No, like, you try to please, and then you try to do that. The things you like, you learn to like please, and what you do end up doing in relationships, or you learn to keep secrets.
Yeah.
What you end up doing in relationships. You learned all these bad habits from growing up with an alcoholic, and it took me a long time before I could take responsibility of my own actions and go, yeah, that happened, but I can't fucking keep keeping secrets. I can't stop pleasing.
Right.
I mean, I gotta stop. I gotta always not try to fix things. Maybe just talk and see what each of you need, as opposed to like, oh, you're unhappy, what can I do?
Yeah.
Because I want to be happy. I want our home to be happy, not like my childhood home.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into heavy conversations, because if you get upset, I'm going to feel alone and frightened.
Upset, does that include crying, or does that include yelling? Is that just yelling?
No, it doesn't even happen. They don't, like, I'm really like avoid confrontation. So like, I'm not going to raise my voice. And I don't want them to raise theirs, but it's just, I feel like it's an odd feeling, but they don't even have to like yell or cry. It's just, if I feel a disconnect, that's painful.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
And how would you, if you felt the disconnect, would you then go into like please mode? Let me please them and let me get them back, however? Sometimes
I've gone into like internal, and like I kind of shut down. Right? Which is
anger. Is it an angry shutdown, or is it a hurt shutdown?
It's a hurt shutdown, but there's an anger swirling.
Because they made you do this.
The night was going great.
And
then we get into this talk, and now look at us.
Yeah.
And watch me wither.
Yeah.
So selfish, right? And by shutting down, you're just making things worse. And so, you just have to realize that. Check in with myself, realize what's going on, realize what I'm doing and I'm bringing to it, and going, well, you're making it a lot fucking worse. How about acting like a grown-up and talking about it? You get there. And I don't do this every time, but I've done it.
You don't do the right thing every time, or you don't do the wrong thing every time?
You don't do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I don't, every time I don't shut down.
And
But that I've done that. And
it's really hard. First of all, relationships are incredibly hard.
But I just got to learn not to make them harder.
Yeah. But they're just, even saying what you mean takes like excavation.
Well, you got to really trust the other person to be able to say what you mean.
And that they can take it, that they can
I'm in a
accept
relationship now that I feel like I can tell her anything, and we can talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not going to punish me or run from me or, because these are things that you think if I really tell her this or that,
that'll be the end.
Yeah. You get really
you have the thing where
catastrophic thinking.
Yep. If somebody doesn't text you back, they've ghosted you.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Ghost me.
No, well, of course, go fuck yourself. But I'm saying, are you scared that people are mad at you?
The only time that I get worried about that is like if you send something where you think is funny but a little off color, and then you don't hear back, you're like,
right,
I'm a monster.
Yeah.
Then I get worried.
All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Right? Yeah. Then I'll get worried. But then
you'll evolve into, you know what? Fuck you, ghost me. You don't be friends with me if you can't take a little going ugly or acting
right.
Ugly.
Like I never want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I read an article or a book about anger, and it said people that grow up the way you grow up, the way I grew up, have never seen things peacefully resolved.
Yeah.
I've just never seen it. So if someone and I have a disagreement, I'm immediately like, get my fucking glass, my shiv. I'm going into the mosh pit, And so to just say like, no, you can speak openly and honestly and with care, and they can also. And I'm assuming you're in the kind of relationship where the relationship's better off 25 minutes later than it was when you when you weren't saying because you were afraid she's gonna.
Yeah. It's just it's just shit that's built up in you that is not useful in your life.
Yeah.
And to be with someone that I trust so much and I can talk to and grew up in a great household where people talk things out peacefully. And she does. And so it's like, it's wonderful.
Does the thing happen where you say you'll inadvertently get into combat language and she'll be like, no.
You get into what?
Like sort of combative language or combative, like you're going into a bad habit zone and she can like.
I don't get into combative.
With your tone.
I don't really like. We've never raised our voice to each other.
Great.
I just couldn't imagine.
Or not even combative, just a bad habit of like you're not
the bad habit is
saying
just
something,
like
you're not saying something.
Just shutting down.
Yeah.
And going quiet. Right?
Yep. Do you feel sorry for yourself?
Well, it was a learned language from a past relationship, and
sulking,
which I ended up adopting from that person, which is I'm not just, but I realized like I wasn't like that before. I inherited that, and so it's good to like have those realizations. So you're like, okay, that's not useful to you. Or where you're at now, but you can inherit bad habits.
Yeah,
like that.
Like it's an emotional STD.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
It's truly what it is. Like you pick up like, oh, I'm gonna. The American military always fights the last war,
right?
So in Afghanistan, they're fighting Iraq from 1991. You know what I mean? Like so you're just going like, this is the state of warfare, but it's old and doesn't even. And again, I'm thinking of it as war.
Well, that's because we grew up that way, and it felt like it's like a combat zone.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine what a real combat zone feels like, but
Yeah, emotionally, you can understand. You have one here, self-worth, and then in parentheses, old stuff.
Yeah, I had a problem with self-worth. You've seen my stunts.
At a certain point, do you realize with the stunts, like, this is a horrible way to get self-worth? Like, this is a real, it's self-flagellation.
Yeah, because the destroying myself was giving me self-esteem,
Yeah.
right? And that's a real hard circle to be caught up in.
It's also a hard one to stop.
Because you start out, you're doing these stunts and you're not even realizing it, but they're getting bigger and bigger and injuries are piling up.
Did you ever worry about death, or was it just like, I'm going to need painkillers or I'm going to break an arm or something?
I would, if it was a bigger stunt, things pass through your mind, especially like a week before.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I would get a little worked up. But as I got closer to the stunt, I calmed down because I had to. Because if you go into a big stunt and you're working from a place of fear and you don't commit, you're really going to get fucked up. On the bigger things, you have to want to be there and want to do it.
Would you train at all for them? That's the whole point.
I don't want to know how to do these things. I'm doing these things for the first time. Nobody wants to see me do good at a stunt. That's not the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would never rehearse. I would tell Jeff when I get there, I'm like, if it's a big one, I'd be like, Jeff, just set the cameras up, get everyone ready. I'll be sitting in my car listening to music. And when you want me.
What kind of music are you listening to?
A lot of my cousin stuff, Roger Allen Wade.
Was it to calm you down? Calm you down? What was it meant to do?
Make me crazy, calm me down, make me sad, just make me feel a lot.
Was it your stunt? Were they your ideas, or would you not know what they were?
No. Most of the time I'm writing my own stunts, especially the big ones, because it's tough to watch your friends do a dangerous stunt, especially if you just wrote them into that.
Yeah.
So, but there are times, I guess,
you'll
handful of times where people would give an idea to one of my bigger stunts, but most of the time it was mine. It's
a perfect metaphor for self-talk. Like, you'll say things to yourself that you would never say to your friends. Yeah, I have a horrible thing that I'm willing to do it because I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I would never have you do it.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
God, you're such
love you.
Yeah, but me,
but I
fuck
can't even
me.
think about loving myself.
Oh,
That's
fuck.
like, I don't have time for that.
The worst.
God.
When you had would you have an idea of how to best approach it? Like, you're going into a bull ring or whatever. You go, they go down. I think did you guys jump a car? Because I'd heard about Spike jumping a car on the PCH in the 90s, inadvertently.
Yeah, he's really situational.
No, I heard that, like, from way before the show.
Yeah.
But would you have a plan of, like, I think you'd imagine, like, it
was specifically with the bull, like, you kind of want to get above them as opposed to get under them.
Right.
And right before they hit you, they always drop their head.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always try to hop right before they hit me so their head would hit my ass and 360 me in the air. And I thought that was safer than I know it was safer than just being under their hoofs and horns.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
Mm-mm.
So that's what I would try to do. But then sometimes I'd come down on the back of my neck and get a concussion. But, I'm here.
So the self-worth thing, at a certain point, did you just go, all right, it was ever a calculation of, like, this is a bad way to get it. I need a new way to get self-worth. Or did it kind of just fill it up?
After, like, the concussion, the last one, I was like, I got to really rethink.
Sweet 16?
I got to really, Sweet 16. I really knew that what I was doing was no longer working.
Yeah.
So I kind of just really, had a discussion with my kids. Look, I'm done with the big stunts. I know probably freaked you out, and I'm sorry, but I'm done with that now, because I wanted them to feel safe.
Did it freak them out? Were you aware of it freaking them out?
They didn't say anything, but sometimes my youngest would ask questions and what I'm doing today, and I could tell she was concerned. And
yeah.
My son kind of kept it in, but they were happy to know that I wasn't. So yeah.
And then that sort of resolved it. And then, do you miss it? Whatever self-esteem you were getting, or do you know what I mean? Like, or attention. What do you feel like it's missing now?
I'm in
because I gotta say you gotta be a pretty beloved guy. Like, meaning when people see you, I bet it's generally speaking, people are pretty happy to see you.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Really nice feeling that, because especially like, when they're like, I grew up on you, or I used to watch it with my father, or, those bonding moments, and to know that you've had an effect on.
Yeah.
I'm getting really soft in my older age.
Dude, I'm with you.
I like 2 or 3 times on the podcast, I've welled up.
Yeah. Why do you think? What do you think on this podcast or your podcast?
No. Just once on yours. Just in. I haven't done it 3 times on your podcast, Neal.
No. So yeah, you just get.
I get them.
Well, what do you think it is?
With emotion.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
Obviously, like the past.
I'm pretty empathetic. You know,
as a guy.
Yeah, and see that I've had an effect on someone.
Yeah,
it means something to me.
What do you make of your life? I know it's a broad fucking question, but what do you make of like pretty work? I mean, in a lot of ways worked out pretty goddamn well.
For where it started, like I'm pretty. Like I was just my son just asked me random questions sometimes, and in the pool yesterday, he's like,
there.
In the pool, right? Yeah.
Right there. Did you go with the pool?
In ground pool, not above the ground pool.
It doesn't count.
No, I didn't have.
That's so right there.
In the water hose.
Yeah, you're in the pool. You're in the in-ground built-in pool.
Yeah.
With your son. So right there, you're already a victory.
Yeah, you consider yourself lucky?
Me?
No, that's what my son asked me.
Oh, your son asked you.
Yeah. Sometimes he just comes out with random things.
How old is he?
He's 14.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah. you know.
Yeah.
They've come from where I came from, and they've come to town not knowing anybody.
Yeah.
And to end up where I am, there's a lot of things I would have liked to have done differently, but I'm here now and doing things differently. I didn't say this to him, but I couldn't really convey how lucky I am. Of course, I also made my luck, but there was a lot of luck involved, a lot of good fortune.
Yeah, which you can't account for, and you don't know why it happened to you.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I've always seen you as like a writer who kind of made good. Do you know what I mean? Like I really do. Like I've always like this is a guy who it was your idea. Do you know what I mean? Like not like you invented the whatever, but it was all your. It was foundationally yours.
Well, I think.
I mean, obviously there were people that came before you.
Me, Jeff, and Spike. It's ours. And
yeah, I shouldn't say specifically you. But
I had to make something happen for myself because no one else was going to make it happen for me. I had to do. I couldn't sit back and wait for a job. I had to create my job. Yeah. I still can't believe it worked out. You know?
I can't either. Not because it shouldn't have. It's one of those like, it works so well. And the logo was right. The music was right. Just so many things that were just like, oh, this is a perfect strike. this product or piece of art, whatever you want to call it. Like it was like breathtakingly well executed.
Well, thank you. And it means the most is with friends, that we did it as friends.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Monkees.
Yeah,
you know?
guys weren't. Yeah, they weren't like, we've got another guy from Pennsylvania. He's going to come. He's got that jackass spirit. Come on in, son. And you're like, hello.
It was our best guess.
Yeah.
At this.
Yeah.
Which is all you got is your best guess. And a lot of times those don't work out, but sometimes they do. You just got to keep hucking.
Johnny Knoxville, thanks for doing it, man.
Thank you.
Put it there,
all right,
son.
thanks, man.